And so this is why, again, what happens at Pentecost becomes such a powerful argument for Jewish evangelism. We see the Spirit of God becoming, this must be the Messianic age. Jesus must have been the Messiah. It's the only way it works. It's the only way it makes sense.
I thought the early church fathers have some strange statements regarding the Holy Spirit leaving the Jews when Christ came, etc. Is my reaction wrong?
No, some of them said that when Christ rose and you had the day of Pentecost, that was proof that the Spirit of God had left the Jewish community. Now, I would put it much earlier than that. I'd put it with the departure of the Spirit or the glory from the temple before it's destroyed. But the church fathers had this sense that the Jewish community, the old covenant Israel, had been replaced by the church. And so this is why the Spirit of God was residing within the church, within believers now, and not the Jewish community. So that was part of their argument. That was part of the church fathers' argument toward the Jewish community, hopefully in a good sense, in an evangelistic sense. But some of them, wound up using it in an anti-Semitic sense too, which is unfortunate, but it did happen.
That's an important distinction because the Holy Spirit left the temple before its destruction, and yet we still have prophets during the inauguration of the second temple.
You have a situation where ostensibly you have the presence of God dwelling in the temple. You don't have the Holy Spirit distributed among all believers, all Israelites. There's really no evidence for that. But you do have it selectively bestowed to Israelites for a particular service or office or something they have to do. Again, we got into this, I think, in the last Q&A when I asked what's new about the new covenant. Something has to be new about it. And there's a big debate over the role of the Holy Spirit in the Old Testament. There's only one scholar I know of that argues that the Holy Spirit was present among all Israelite believers, and that's Leon Wood. Everybody else believes that the Spirit of God was selective and temporary. In other words, showing up and empowering for service. And that was basically what the Spirit's role was. And then in the new covenant, the Spirit of God comes to indwell each and every believer. And each and every believer is going to get spiritual gifts from the Spirit, including, prophecy and so on and so forth. That it's much more democratized, and that marks the Messianic age because of the prophet Joel. Your old men and your young women, or whatever the wording is there, will dream dreams and have visions and so on and so forth. The Spirit of God is described in much more democratic terms, that it's throughout the whole community in the Messianic age. And so this is why, again, what happens at Pentecost becomes such a powerful argument for Jewish evangelism. Because now we see the Spirit of God becoming, this must be the Messianic age. Jesus must have been the Messiah. It's the only way it works. It's the only way it makes sense. And so it becomes a real point in Jewish evangelism.